What up, you pickleball champs? This is actually a short video specifically focused on women's doubles serve return placement. This is something that's a lot of times overlooked or people don't learn. So I've compiled a set of clips where we're only looking at the serve and the return, and then we're kind of moving on. So I'm just going to show you, and then we're moving on to the next one. So let's just break this down. So this is a great one between Waters and Bright, and their opponents are Smith and Kovalova. And if you don't know, Waters is serving. So we're just going to go through this kind of frame by frame. So right now, Smith and Kovalova are needing to switch to get them back in the position that they want to be. And the big thing to take away from this is right here, looking at where Kovalova went over to. She doesn't go where a lot of people, when they're learning to play with a partner, they assume, okay, I'm doing the switch, I'm going to go to the middle. I'm going to have 1 foot here and 1 foot here, and that's the width of my feet, and my partner's going to go 1 foot here, 1 foot here, and stand, and we're going to have this area right here in the middle kind of open. That's not what we want to do. What we want to do is adjust our body and our feet to where the ball was hit. So the ball is hit onto this side. I always kind of look at this as there are zones. And if we looked at this, so we kind of are going to divide this one in half. We have this middle line, and we divide this one in half again. And so you kind of have these zones. I normally like to do letters instead of numbers going this way, because we go numbers the other way. So you have A, B, C, and D. And just because I'm American, we go left to right. So I apologize for that if that's not how your language works. But so she hit it into kind of the B quadrant zone. And so it is definitely left of the center line. I'm going to erase these for us right here. And that is why Kovalova's foot stays very close to this center line, because, and this is where the first question I always get asked is, but what if she hits it here? So we are going to find a point where that occurs, and it actually occurs to the backhand in a couple points from now. This does occur on this one, but to hit the ball there, you can't hit it really hard because you got to get it to come back down over the net. So then you have time to get over to that ball, and we'll see that. So let's keep progressing onto this one. So Waters does decide to hit it to Kovalova's forehand, and nice easy drop, and she's able to get it, and it's right to where she currently is, so she doesn't have to run a lot. It's not away from her. And what they are doing here is, like we always talk about, is you are only ever going to be guarding essentially 60-70% of the court. This is the court amount they're guarding, and maybe I can make this a little bit wider, but I'm going off her foot because of her forehand. And you're basically telling your opponent, hey, hit it over here if you can. If Waters, I'm going to use red, if Waters had drove this ball instead of dropped it, this is the line we're talking about, which a lot of people don't see. That's almost a straight line, even for my bad drawing ability. It's pretty much. So if she went to the far end part of the court, Kovalova easily forehand volley that and put it back. Anything that starts to go further this direction and as a drive, well, guess what? Our out of bounds line is going to have that go out, and you don't even have to hit it. And so this is really where you're defending, even though you're up here on this part, you're sitting there going, how much of the court am I actually protecting with my foot right here? Oops. My foot right here on the center line. And it's actually, let's get my blue. It's actually all this. That is everything you're defending. And then anything to hit into here basically has to be a drop. So if Waters hit the ball here, it's essentially has to be hit soft, or it's just going to go long. Okay, so that's the first one. I know I spent a little bit of extra time just on the first one because it is the first one, and we're going through quite a bit of, so that now we're moving on to the next one. Okay, so this serve, again, they're going to have to do a switch. And this time, ball is more in the center. Okay, so what occurs here is kind of one of the things we want to take a look at. So because the ball bounced basically here, and I know that I'm just going to leave that mark there. See if we, yep, that's right where the ball bounced. It's kind of right behind Smith's body when it actually impacts, but I'm just leaving that red mark there. That forces Smith to be a little bit over. Not a lot, but as you can see, there's a little bit of room here between her foot and the center line. So that's something that you want to think about when you're deciding where and who to return to. Putting the ball in between your opponents can be good. You just also have to decide, is that actually good when you're doing the switch? And so, in my opinion, when you're doing a switch, you want to start getting much more specific of who you're hitting the ball to and not put the ball straight down the middle, similar to singles. In singles, when you put the ball down the middle and you're charging the net, they just have too much. They can go either direction on you, correct? And so that makes it very hard because you're running around. And if I'm just going to give an example, let's say you're saying, hey, we're going to attack Kovalova because she has to run around, and you just assume lots of people are going to do that. Well, if the ball had gone here, let's just draw this out. That gets to our standard triangle of our 90-degree triangle. This is the 90-degree point on it, just so you guys know. She would have to hit the ball to go and attack Kovalova. I'll do that actually and do this last one in yellow so you can see the arrow. For her to go over here, it's the longest part. The ball has to travel further. The ball is going to slow down more, and it gives Kovalova more time to get to where she wants to be. Also, that would give, here's a better example as well. Let's just take a look at this run, and we're going to be marking a couple things here. Give me one sec. Just cleaning up my workspace. So when she hits this ball to the center, which I'm still fine with them deciding like, hey, we want to go after Annalie Waters. That's fine. We'll talk about this in a second. So she got to, when the ball's impacting her, she got to basically here. So now let's just mark her feet. Just doing yellow. I'm just marking both her feet. Now we're going to back it up. And let's see how far she had to go. So she gets the ball here, and she's got to go all the way from right here to there. Pretty decent length because the ball went to the net. She has to also guard this right corner. She's got to guard more area over here because the ball's here, and she can attack right there. So if the ball had gone here, as we just saw in the previous one, if Kovalova had put the ball into the A quadrant, then I think then she only has to run from here to here. Much shorter distance, more likely she's going to get there. So that's the biggest thing is, one, you have to decide who you're returning the ball to, and then B, you should be deciding who are you going to return the ball to when you're having to do the hard part of the stack. It may not always be the same person because of that. So the easiest person for Smith, and just pointing this out, this is Smith, the easiest person for her to be able to switch over, have the ball come at her where she can hit a good hard volley back and maybe put the point away, every time it is the person directly in front of where they are switching. So Smith is going this way. Therefore, the easiest person for her to deal with is Bright. That allows her to have the ball come directly back here. Okay, so that's the first and number one reason why you'd go, okay, I want you to return the ball straight ahead if you're doing a switch across. Okay, So that's the number one reason, is because it gives and allows Smith to become the blocker immediately and to be aggressive. Okay. The second reason is what we just talked about. When the ball comes over here into the A or near the B quadrant, it shortens the distance where Kovalova has to run, and it allows Bright to even go earlier over to this side. Okay, so that's the second really big advantage of returning to the ball there. Even though you're letting, in this scenario, you're letting the more aggressive person move up, it's going to make it easier for you to do your switch, and that's what you want. In this example, even though we're not going to watch it all the way through, Kovalova has to run further. Smith can't defend very much or be very aggressive because she's also having to guard her baseline, and Kovalova doesn't get there and does this little pop-up. The point continues on, but it ends rather quickly after that. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Okay, so still it's not going well for Kovalova and Smith because of where they're hitting the ball, and they're doing this switching. Okay, so now they decide to go cross-court to Bright. And what does Bright do? Bright goes straight ahead. Bright actually does hit this ball out, but watch where they're stacked at impact. They're basically, Kovalova and Smith are like lined up like a T. Court's wide open. Of course, Bright's going to go after that, and Kovalova's way late. She just gets lucky. You know, they just get lucky here. And so once again, going over to zone, that's zone C, so I'm just going to do them out again. We got A, B, C, D, and I'm just drawing the lines. And because they're doing this, the switch to this side, that makes it much harder of a run. So if you're running, you're like, man, I'm just late, like I can't get there, all that kind of stuff. It's because of where you're putting the ball. It's not actually you. You're not moving that slow. It's where and how you're putting the ball. Now, yes, this return came back a little short and bounced up high, but it really is about what zone you're choosing to put the ball when you're stacking. Okay, I'm just going to clean up my workspace here. We're going to move on to the next one. I actually really like this view because now you can see Smith serving. So let's keep moving forward on this. Oh, she serves that out. Let's move forward. Sorry, I meant to cut that out. Okay, the reason I have this one in here is because Waters and Bright are not stacking. So I wanted you guys to see this as an example. So in this scenario, same like before, they are choosing that Smith is the more aggressive one coming to the net. So they're going to hit the ball back to her. So that's a good strategy. But they hit the ball right here, basically right on, it's, I would actually say it's just, the bounce probably just left into, and the zones are always based around your eyesight. So for Bright's perspective, this would be D. So I just didn't want that to be confusing when I said that. But it's always from your perspective of those zones. So she hits it into D, and watch Bright's feet. So Bright ran up, and she didn't get all the way to this line, but man, she's a couple inches off. And that's the big difference where, you know, lower level amateur players, people who are just learning to play, make the mistake is they hit the ball over here to D, and they're not following the ball. They come up here, and they would be guarding this right here with their feet. They'd be standing right in the middle, and their other quote-unquote singles partner, I always like to say that it's like two people playing singles just on the same court, on the same side of the court. They would be like this, even though the ball, as we know, came over here. So Bright follows the ball and comes over correctly. Now, would I like to see her just slightly further over? Yes. But I think what she's also doing is giving Waters a little bit of extra space. But much, much further this direction than the average amateur player. And so you're going to make your life easier by just guarding the 60, 70% of the court that you want. So right now, Bright, do this. They're guarding this much of the court. Annalie Waters' forehand can reach out and cover that line, just the edge of that line. She doesn't want to cover out of bounds. And Bright's covering here. And as we just talked about, if, like Smith loves to drive the ball, if Smith had driven the ball here and gotten it over the net, it's going out. She's not going to hit that. She's only going to hit that spot if she hits a drop. And then you have plenty of time to move over. So that was the big thing I wanted to show on that one. Now we're going into Annalie Waters' serve. So just so you guys know, when you see this, if you've never seen this before, a fist for 99% of players, that's stay. That means I'm staying here. We're not switching. So now you're seeing like Smith and Kovalova were having to switch because they had 1 point. Now they have 2 points. They're back to their starting position. They're back to the side they want to be on. And so now we're just returning the ball. Where do we want to return the ball? Okay. So this ball was short, but watch Smith. Even on a middle ball, that was short. What does she do? She moves over here to guard more space. That is exactly what you want to do. And that's the big thing where a lot of people miss that. Now, is that the max? Like, okay, my foot can only go to the line. I want to go to the line, but I'm never going to cross that line? Absolutely not. Where Smith's foot is 100% based around where this ball was returned. When you return it straight down the middle, you still have to, kind of guard over here just to be safe. So you can't go as far over any real further on this middle ball. And you're inviting them to say, hey, bring it at me. I'm already up here. I'm daring you to hit it at me instead of the person coming up to the net. Okay? I think, we actually got to play that point out. Okay, I believe we have one more in here. Okay, let's just see this one. I got to back this one up again. Sorry. Okay, this is the one where, so she hits it into quadrant C, and she's coming on up. This is the one where she gets, I call this Annalie Waters keeping her honest. You came up, I am hitting it to your backhand. So if Smith was over here a little bit further, which I would have preferred to seen her be at, then it's, hey, I'm going to take it to your backhand and I'm going to push you back. But once again, as we just talked about, so this ball goes to where everybody's first question is, hey, I'm concerned, what if they hit it over here? If my foot's right here, what if they hit it over here? Look how soft that ball was. Smith didn't rush. She didn't run. She does one step, and she's hitting that ball exactly how she wants. And look at this. Well, she actually wins that point, but we are keeping these things really short because she was able to attack Bright, who wasn't down and really early ready for it. But that is the big thing, is they're not going to hit a drive that hard on that other side. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Here we go. Kovalova. So just so you guys know, the footage was showing somebody else, so I cut it short. But Bright actually serves this. Kovalova's returning this. And this is the one that I really want you guys to see. Okay, so look at Smith. When they finally they didn't even get it into the D, but they got it real close to the line. So it's still far right C. I'll back it up a couple frames. We'll see. I think it bounces in C. Yeah, that bounces technically in C, but really close to D. So what's Smith do? And this is what everyone misses. She's right in the middle line, still being careful about her left side in case it's wide open and she's going to come back. Riley Newman does this amazing, but I want you to see that also in women's doubles, this is how the game is played. 1 foot here, 1 foot here. Her body's right on that middle line. When your partner returns the ball to this side, close to the D zone, that you can come over and take all this space. That's what gets, you're playing, skinny singles now against your opponent because of where you've hit the ball. So you want to follow the ball. So she's ready. They're both ready. Smith doesn't have to move over. And then look at this. When the ball finally comes to Smith, she's only moved, her foot is still basically on the middle line, and she's covering. So this is the last point we're going over, but I just wanted you guys to see that that is how you want to do it. And so when you're talking with your doubles partner, you want to be communicating, okay, first, where are we at? Are we straight and we don't have to be switching? And we don't, so if we don't have to be switching, then we can really say, okay, where do we want the ball to go? Okay, do we want to try and keep the more aggressive person back because they're on the side that's going to let our person be more aggressive? Or are we going to want to put the ball where I can now take the most ground on the court? So I'll give an example. If I was Smith and Kovalova and I was playing Waters and Bright, I wouldn't really care who was over here if Smith, my more aggressive, long-armed, can smash and put the ball away, and we're not having to switch, I would be putting the ball in C, quadrant C and D. I'm just doing this. I'm giving us the line so you can see it again. All day long, because I want her here being aggressive and taking this ground and being able to really utilize her forehand and win us some points. Now, the biggest reason I did this video is so that you can see when you're having to switch, it changes and adjusts. But if you are not utilizing some of these ball placements to your advantage, you're making the game harder on yourself, you're having to run more, and therefore you're making more mistakes. Hope this short video was helpful, and I'll see you guys next time.